Right. What's happening? Welcome along to the first ever podcast we've done as Dictator Band. We don't have a name for it so far. I've touted with Dicks with Mix. Easy for me to say. Don't know if you've got any ideas.
Yeah, so well, you were calling it Dicks with Mix, and I was thinking that doesn't make sense. Mix, it's a mic. So I was thinking. No, you can work
Dictator
out on it.
Podcast one. Good idea. Same. Got wee Finn joining us as well. No, anyway, we thought me and Zach. It's a very sunny day outside, and we've got none today. It's actually the half's baby shower.
Yeah.
Everybody's there. All of our other halves are there, so we thought, let's record a podcast. The dog is kind of slotted about in my legs here.
It's the nicest day of the year, and you thought, let's go and lock ourselves in your office and record a podcast, a conversation.
But yeah, no. Anyway, we just thought it'd be a good chance to catch up over the last couple of months because we have been on tour for what seems like forever. But it's our first ever tour, so we thought, you know what, it'd be quite cool to just go over stuff we learned, how it's been, where our heads are at, and kind of plans and stuff like that. But I think it's probably best to just get right into it, Zach. So, but how did you find the tour, mate?
So loads of people have been asking me like, oh, how was your tour? How was your tour? Right, and I felt like I'm starting every answer with, oh, it was amazing, but and I feel really selfish saying it and complaining because we've lived out a dream that loads of artists and musicians would do, really messed up things for, and we've just been given the opportunity. But the one thing that really resonated with me is how difficult it is. It's hard. It's amazing fun, and every single gig that we played was absolutely worth it. But it's just the in-betweeny bits, the actual travelling and the living in crappy hotels is really, really difficult, and it takes a toll, man. So I'm sorry for complaining, because I wouldn't change it. I absolutely still loved it, but it is difficult.
Nah, I know, man. So, like, for anybody who's kind of just tuning in, doesn't know what we've been up to, we've done our first ever tour as a band, first ever UK tour, split over 2 legs. So we've done London, Manchester and Newcastle, then we done Fort William, we done Inverness and Thurso, but in between that we got offered a tour support slot with a band called The Ratings. If you've not heard of them, go check them out. But basically it was something like 22 shows over the course of 2 months, including our own. And then like we just kind of finished the last bit there, but it was like Dublin, Ireland, the full length of the UK, which was mental. But bear in mind, as a band, we'd done like 10 shows up until February because of like lockdown and stuff like that. So we got offered the chance that pretty much close to 30 shows over 3 months. And what you're seeing in front of you is the tatters that remain after those 30 shows. As you say, I remember watching a thing with Noel Gallagher saying about like if you don't like touring, stop at Radiohead. And he was like, well, if you didn't like touring, didn't bother touring then, type of thing. And we're like, I know, but then I just feel that some bands just gloss over or make it seem as if it's like absolutely class, and it is absolutely class, but also sometimes a wee bit shite.
Yeah, I'm not saying I didn't like it. I loved every moment and experience. I just wasn't prepared for the exhaustion that was going to follow with it. It was bloody hard, man. But I wouldn't, as I say, I wouldn't change it for the world.
So I found what I found is that there was a couple of dates. So starting off way back at the start, I'm going to probably pull up my phone and we can go through the map and the dates that we done. But way back at the start, we done Carlisle was the first.
Carlisle, Dundee, and Edinburgh was the first 3 legs.
So
I should say as well, we were plagued with illness, so maybe that's why I found it so difficult.
I genuinely think because so we started off in Carlisle. Carlisle was class, and it was like I don't know, that was like the weirdest thing because we turned up and it was just waiting about and we're like, what's going to happen? What's this going to be like? First ever kind of getting the van, going away down to Carlisle, and we played it and it was amazing. Everybody kind of took to us, everybody came up to us after. That's the mad thing, like straight off the bat, is that when you go and see a band and stuff like that, it was like a proper gig this time. It wasn't just like a kind of homemade show, that it was like a proper gig, and you're going up on the stage and people see you coming off the stage and they make a beeline straight for you where they're like, oh, boys, yous were class. No one ever comes up to you and tells you you're terrible because they just avoid you. But it was quite cool to see that and experience that firsthand and be like, oh, and I don't know, you kind of feed off it a wee bit. But Carlisle was the first one. You weren't feeling too well, you had a bit of toothache.
Yeah.
And then on the following day it was Dundee. You again weren't feeling too good, but you'd kind of went and seen the dentist and stuff, and you've had a bit of toothache, blah blah blah. Then on the Saturday we were playing our own show in Edinburgh, and that's when basically it turned out you'd came down with plague.
The plague. What did I have? What was it called?
I can't mind, mate. It was something really bad. Shingles.
Shingles, that was
Shingles,
it.
man.
Because I've had so many other illnesses since.
Again. But no, it wasn't. That was really difficult. We had to. So I remember on that Saturday morning, we hadn't heard for you. It was actually your other half said, like, he's in the hospital. I think it's shingles. And we were like, we've got a gig tonight. Like, I hope he's all right, but we've got a gig tonight. What do we do? And we basically had to, like, we had to grab, we had to grab Zach's guitar parts from every stem of every recording we've ever done and chuck it in so that Alan could trigger his guitar alongside us. Basically use a digital version of your guitar, which is essentially cheating, but we had no other choice and we couldn't pull out the gig. And that was hellish, man. I was like,
well, from what I heard from the crowd, it's the worst show you've ever played. So I guess you're missing me.
The spirit is Zach. I remember the only time it ever happened was Zach where Alan's drums fell halfway through a song, and I was like, that's the half ghost of Zach. He's hospital bed, just wishing us ill. But no, it was. But anyway, that was mad. And then from then on in, you were ill, and for about 2 weeks, wasn't it? You were.
That floored me for a good 2 weeks, and then I started to recover. And you had went to Cardiff and Bristol, and you all caught COVID.
Caught COVID. We had to pull out in Newcastle, and then we had our following show. We had a big headline show in stereo in Glasgow. That I think it was the Friday after that. So we basically had to. It was just a bit of a mad time, but we all got ill. Everybody gets ill when they go on tour. It's just one of those things that's a given. But I don't think we were fully expecting the impact it would have because we had to pull out in Newcastle and stuff, and it was just a bit mental. But we powered on through. The mad thing for me is that each time we went away, and like anybody who's going to go on touring and all that, each time you go away in clumps of days, the 3 days, you would learn something new about what you needed. So like I'd go away and it's like you'd be staying in some rubbish wee hotel, but it is what it is. And you'd maybe be like, oh, this, like, I've got toothpaste. I hate going to make sure I've got toothpaste. And then it's like, I've not got any face wash or something like that. And you're like, hey, make sure. And then so as we went on and on and on, it was like, I remember trying to sleep in the van before there was a wee table. Big shout out to Trash Panda, who supplied the van and sound engineered the whole tour. But basically, before we had the table, try to sleep in the van. It was really uncomfortable because of the way the chairs were, and I was like, I'm getting a neck pillow, and I was like, I'm just gonna get a neck pillow, see how I get on, and then I was like, I got it, and then suddenly you take the wee headrest out, your wee neck pillow goes there, and I'm like, oh, this is actually really comfortable. And then I went away, couldn't sleep, and I was like, why can I not sleep? Because it's during the day, sunlight. I was like, I'm gonna get a wee fucking what they called eye mask, and I mean that's probably OTT for what anybody needs, but. Each time you went away, you're like, alright, cool. If I want to sleep during the day, this is what I need. This is what I hate to do. I don't know, like how you felt, but it was just every time I went away, I got better at knowing what to do, and like for instance, like not getting steaming and like every night and stuff.
Did
like
you
that.
learn that? Is that a lesson you picked up?
Wait. Yeah,
I agree with you though, man. Like it was wee things like learning what to eat, because at first we were just eating at service stations and eating like basically pure rubbish and paying a fortune for it. I think by the sort of the second leg, we're all right. We all headed to the supermarket. We all went and got like healthy-ish food, fruits and yogurts and stuff like that to make it more affordable and to look after our bodies better, so that maybe we weren't getting sick as often.
Aye, because that was one of the things for me is I noticed if and one of the things I never realised is how much everything affects your voice. Nothing more so than talking after the gigs, to the point where
laughing as well.
Aye,
like you're having fun.
Having a good laugh, aye, but like genuinely, to the detriment of every other way you try and sort it. And I don't think everybody fully gets that like you going out after having a few drinks and having like neat alcohol, like having like a whiskey instead of a beer, having 1 or 2 instead of 5, right? If you're shouting in the pub the next day, you might as well have had 12.
Aye.
Because you can't, like your voice is away, and I hate that, because also you have to enjoy the aspect of going out and that after the show, but not like I don't drink after every show, especially when it's like if it's big shows and stuff like that. You definitely, you're like, no, I'm going to wait till tomorrow. Hello, you coming up?
Welcome to the podcast.
How
was your tour experience?
He hated it, mate. So one of the things is we had to take him to the vet because he had a really bad stomach. Turns out he was getting stomach ache through stress because I wasn't here.
Oh, he had a broken heart.
Not up to bugging up his routine. His routine wasn't good, so he's buzzing them back. But no, man, like just daft things like going out and talking after the show, and like just certain foods you can't eat. You can't have really greasy food and stuff before the show. Also, as a band, we leveled up each show, so like there's loads that we need to talk about in terms of like like we will not get it on this podcast, but like a rig rundown of what we done, because we transformed as a band to how we operate, because we realised when you go on tour, you only have like a 15-minute swap over, and we basically like completely condensed our setup to it, but improved it dramatically. We went fully wireless with our in-ear monitors and stuff like that, and kind of changed us as a band. It gave us the opportunity to run about on stage and stuff like that. But what I realised is that comes with a thing where like knackers you out, so you're absolutely burst after doing it. You also can't eat certain foods before you go and do it, because then it's just like running after you've had a kebab. You just feel minging. But I'm now at a point with my voice where I'm like, so like we went and done that Highlands tour last week. My voice was a little bit sore on the Sunday, but then come the Monday it was okay, because there's just certain things I have to do. But I know if we go and do like a headline tour up and down the UK, I basically can't drink on tour if I want to do it, but not even can't drink. I have to bugger off after the show back to the hotel, and just chill out. But see, the thing is like I just need to find ways where that's enjoyable. So one of the things I like to do is I joined Pure Gym, because I realised each time we went away, there's a lot, like say if you go to the gym and stuff like that, that helps your voice massively, as long as a hot shower as well. Like, but then yoga and stretching and stuff like that.
It's all good for your mental health as well. I struggled just being like, I was quite homesick, and I also struggle like I like my personal space, and you don't really get that when you're on tour. You're kind of living on top of each other the whole time. So I had to find ways to just like basically get out of my own head for a wee bit, and what I tended to do was just get up in the morning and just disappear for a few hours and maybe wander around whatever city or town we were in, if we were lucky enough to be staying in the city or town and not on the side of a motorway.
But that was a really big thing for me, is because like when I came back, I can't remember what one it was, but I was like, I think I tried to go to the gym or tried to pay entry to the gym, because of where it was. I think it was maybe Oxford, and I was like, there's no chance, because it was like 20 minutes away and I wasn't a member, so I had to pay for the day. And I was like, I don't even know if I can get there. So I came back after that one, kind of gave it a long hard think about it, and I was like, I need to, while you're away, you obviously need to look out for yourself. You need to take things like yoga, like go to the gym and stuff like that, a wee bit more serious, rather than just getting on it, because that's when you come back and you're in kind of in pieces. But I think I joined Pure Gym because you could use it at any major city in the UK. Since I joined, every single time I've been away, I've found a Pure Gym. And as you say, see, just going away by yourself. See, if I just go away for an hour, normally I do like a workout, then I'll do like a 20-minute, 30-minute yoga or something like that. But there's a lot of breathing exercises and stuff like that, and then you come back and then you're completely refreshed. Everybody's been away out and stuff like that, and you're just like, chilled out, man. But it means that you're not stressed out when you're doing like things like rushing to get to load-ins, rushing to get to this, that, and the next thing.
Yeah. I think you can end up out of sorts as well when you're not, like when you're breaking your normal daily routine, because we're not at our daily work, we're not seeing our partners or whatever, and you just didn't know what to do with yourself. So having something to do, whether it's exercising or walking or whatever you're up to.
Sounds so grumpy, man.
I know, but we are right.
Nah, but I did. There was so that's one part. So like for me, I had to take. There's a lot more that I need to take serious than I never really thought. I think when I was younger, I thought it was going to be proper rock and roll, where you just go out after every show, get steaming. You're like just on the road having a laugh all the time, and you're like, but then what you realise is it's not even. See, while you're away out and you're busy, it's fine. It's when you come back and there's nothing, you're a bit like. It's like and you're getting back sometimes at 3-4 in the morning, and you're like. Try to get to sleep and you're wired and you're like what the or like you're trying to keep yourself awake and you can't, and you're like, oh my god. But it knocks your sleeping pattern for a couple of days. So we quickly realised that there's a lot you have to do to try and match that, where you have to be like sound, well, there's certain things you have to give up. So if you want to go out touring and enjoy it, you can't go out after every show. But you're going to have to go to like bed early and stuff like that. And even when you do, like I remember we went to we were playing Fort William, and I think I had 2 pints or I had 3 pints in total, and then a wee nip when we went to the wee Inverness pub, because I was just living my best life there. But that was it. That was like it, and I was like, oh, that's me. I'm gonna have a night out on the Fort William night. 3 pints and a whiskey, which was still.
Let's be honest here, though. You didn't really have the option for a night out. Everywhere was closed.
But I reckon even if we had, man, but it was nice to just go back, and then we kind of sat for a wee bit and went to bed. But the good parts of it, probably, what are the parts you enjoyed about it?
Nothing. No, not at all. Obviously, I love the performances. I think we really came into our own as performers. We that experience, just playing night after night after night, we really sort of, it sounds kind of cheesy, but kind of discovered who we were on stage. And that's probably a lot to do with the rig rundown that you were talking about earlier, where we gave ourselves a lot more freedom on stage. But then we also just became a lot more comfortable in front of crowds and comfortable playing our parts. Where that like you don't normally get that kind of repetitive experience. We were very very lucky to get that, and that's probably the most positive thing. We've probably got loads more growing to do, but I'm really pleased at like the point we are now as putting on like a performance for our fans. I think that's probably one of the biggest positives. I also just enjoyed meeting folk. Like we met so many sound people, had such a laugh with so many people from the crews, from the other support bands, and obviously from like the fans, the people that were coming along to the shows as well.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
I think I agree with that, because that was like playing the shows. I remember there was a couple of nights where like I was so tired and homesick and stuff like that, because you do, and I didn't want to keep going on about that, but you do, and like so when people say they didn't, or like, oh, it's class, and you're like, aye, but it's fine to say it's no all like sunshine and rainbows, because I reckon people who say that it isn't are the ones who experience the worst.
Yeah, and I think it had people like maybe spoke about that side of it. I know like some really big artists have been pretty open about how like the struggles, but they're at an entirely different level. But even at our level, it's still hard. And had we known about it, we maybe would have prepared slightly differently.
That's why I've like tried to, like, for people listening who maybe doing it and they're like, I want to see this, but genuinely, like, it was still really enjoyable. But I also feel that it's a really good experience for if we do go into bigger and better things and we get like bigger tours and stuff like that. You're building almost the habits that help you when you're away doing that. So that, by like for instance, if you're looking at, well, you can make $100 grand over the course of 6 months, or you can make 75 grand, but you're going to be splitting up the days. I think everybody in the band would be like, we'll take the 75. We'd rather take the knock, like take it down. And I think that's good, because now we're not just like, cool, what it is, and it's not always logistically possible. But the positives for me were playing. There was nights where I was just like burst, shattered for driving, like terrible sleep, and then you're loading in, and loading in's quite exhausting. Like in terms of just like the cool stuff about what we've been doing wirelessly has meant heavier stuff to load in. But I remember every single time, as soon as the first track started playing, and I was like, aye, this is a bit of me.
Northampton was that catalyst for me, man. Where like they travelling, everyone was really tired, everyone was kind of grumpy with each other. As soon as we walked on that stage, we've seen the crowd, the opening bars started playing. We're like, yes, this is why we're doing all of this.
Running about like wee laddies because we were wireless. It was amazing, man. And I think the other positives for me is that there's a lot that I've kind of personally, like, obviously it's been a bit of a challenge to like figure out how to do it, how to balance it. And I've actually felt fairly balanced the last couple of months, where I actually feel that like, so things like someone said to me to do yoga and stuff like that, and I was like, no. Started doing it, and what I've realised is two things: pure gym and yoga, no matter where you are, feel the same. So you can so if you go to pure gym, a pure gym's a pure gym, a pure gym's a pure gym. So I was up in pure gym in Inverness, I was doing a pure gym in Liverpool. It just feels like the pure gym in Livy. They're all pure gyms, and so like as weird as that is, it's like a wee slice of home, because you're like,
are you trying to get like an endorsement?
I am
for pure gym
trying to get an endorsement for pure gym, because of my 3-month trial membership at £20 is about to go up to 33. But that was actually really helpful, and I never thought about that. Never once did I think that like, here, that's actually that reminds me of home. So if I go and do that, if I go to a pure gym, and I don't like pure gym, mate. We're not getting an endorsement. I'm not a big pure gym fan, but I joined it because I was like, well, it's the same. And I never realised how good that is. See, when I was up in Inverness, I was like, I just feel like I'm 5 minutes away from my house. And that's really nice feeling. Same with yoga and stuff like that. Okay.
Start of the show as always.
Again, but same with yoga, man. Like doing yoga and stretching and stuff like that. I never realised how good that was. And breathing, just taking like a minute and like taking 20 minutes to go and do like a stretch and stuff like that is mental, because you're sitting in a van all like stretched out, and then you do something like that, and you're like, oh man, I feel class. Why do I feel class? Oh, because you've just done that. So I don't know. For me, I really enjoyed like challenging myself to do that. But what it meant is I've enjoyed seeing all the places we've been to, because I've actually been a wee bit more like there. Like I've actually been, that's quite cool to see. And like, I mean, I never ever want to see Sunderland Stadium again. Is it? No, what is it? Stoke City on a Tuesday night. No, but genuinely, we drove past that stadium about 7 or 8 times, because it's right the way down to anywhere you go. But there was a lot of places I'm like, that was quite cool. My head now understands where places are, like the Midlands, and and I've never had that before. I've never been able to, like, Bristol, Southend-on-Sea. I've been there. I know where it is, and that's quite cool.
Got your bearings a bit more.
Like, mate, Southend-on-Sea was amazing. Like going down to the wee greasy spoon that we were in
the actual town or city, I think it's a city now. I think Southend was brilliant. It was a travelling there that was an absolute killer.
We went and got an ice cream, played mini golf, and then we missed the sound check for that night in Northampton. Was it Northampton?
It was Northampton at Fulham. Yeah.
He's like, you hate learning.
Like, get up earlier.
But one of the things we noticed is that you don't stay in the city you're playing in. That's one of the biggest things if anybody's booking it, is that you're better. Like, this is just our opinion, but book somewhere that's in a decent travelling distance. So like less than 2 hours is normally our rule of thumb. But we're like, if we can get away after the last act. Also, always stay for the main act. Then you leave before it, because the amount of shows we seen in the ratings was amazing. Like, in Dublin and Belfast, mate. In Dublin, yous were all ringing. I was in the crowd and I was like further back than yous. Yous were soaking. And like at the end of the gig, they were like, "Were yous in the crowd?" I'm like, aye, of course we were.
The crowd was wild in Dublin. It was brilliant.
But there's like certain other bands, not on that tour, but like I know who just don't stick about. There's sometimes you can't, which is different. But if you can, absolutely, because it's class to see who you're supporting and learn for them. We learned so much for the ratings.
Yeah,
the
I was
boys are
gonna
amazing.
say that, man. Like the actual, just the learning experience from them and their team was like next. Well, the biggest learning I took from it actually was the different levels. Like they are so organised and so on the ball and so professional, and it kind of like, right, okay, because they're doing like huge gigs right now, like across the country, and they didn't get there by luck. They got there by hard work and being properly switched on. I like to think that we work hard. We put a lot of time and effort into what we do. Well, I know it's hard as the dog here, but the way that those guys are doing it, it's just another level yet again, man. And obviously, us being able to see that, we can then go, right, well, this is what we need to do what they're doing at the.
I think one of the things for me over the course of the last 3 months has made me totally changed my perception of music. I feel like it's like a league system now, right? Where actually, like honestly, man, like, I had no clue. You either think you're amazing or you're nothing, right? That's the way I think, because people know, like, you maybe be at a gig in Glasgow, but boys for Dictator, and you're like, oh man, people know me, or nobody knows you, and you're like, it's really hard to gauge. But actually, seeing the way gigs sell and what you can play, it's like a complete league system where we look at like our like the Snuts, they're supporting Kings of Leon at Wembley. Now for them, no doubt they're sitting there going like, we want to play Wembley, we want to sell at our own Wembley.
Yeah.
And I think that's the difference, is that like now we were opening act on an amazing tour with the ratings. Our next kind of level is like, well, we want to try and be main support. And then when you're main support, you're probably thinking, we should be trying to book our own tour at this level. And then when you book, and even the ratings, it's amazing. They've just booked like a academy-sized venues tour for later on in the year. But they've just done an amazing tour. But they, again, would have been like, we need to try and get to like the Barras, and that's our tour. And then once they've done that, they'll be like, how do we get to the Hydro? How do we get to the O2 Academy? Like stuff like that. Don't ask me how to get to the O2 Academy, because I will go to the Barras and they'll realise. But
Wait. You can't make that off the cuff joke like that without explaining yourself.
So Black Hole Records, the kind of manager, Scott Simpson plays with First Aid Kit, and he was tour managing for Bears Den, and he basically said, "Boys, you just want to come along and see the show," and I did. Me and Rebecca. At no point did I ask where it was. I just turned up at the Barras, asking the lassie at the Barras, "I'm on the guest list," and she's like, "No, you're not," and I'm like, I am. Do you know who I am? Nah, I'm just sitting up. I'm sure. I'm phoning him. He's like, I'm at the ticket office, and I'm like, oh, you know. And then Rebecca was next to me, and she was like, who's playing tonight? And it was like Beach House or something like that. And I was like, I think I just walked away. I was like, and I text the guy. I just went, I'm no at the O2 Academy. But anyway, then I went along. Only missed the first song, and they were really good actually. Cool gig. It was like a folk gig. But anyway, so yes, don't ask me where it is. But they're constantly asking, like, aspiring to do the next and the next and the next and the next. And I didn't appreciate that. That actually, like, when you think of like a career in music, I think a lot of it's like you hope things go viral, like these days, where like, you know what I mean? Oh, cool, let's just book arenas. But like, I feel that you work your way up to, like, if that's your end goal and stuff like that, how do you work your way up there? And I've started to see there's a league system of like, you do it and like you kind of try and get to that point. Then you move to the next step, and then there's a whole kind of swirling thing there where you've got to get to the top of that, and then you've got to go and I think that's quite good. You go from being the very, very low down on the like festival circuit to being like headlining.
Yeah, you definitely earn your stripes, man.
Yeah.
Like you really you have to put the graft into like when you're right at the top. You know the people. We now know the people right at the top are there because they absolutely earned a spot up there. It's no way. I mean, some people do go viral, but even the people that go viral still have to work their asses off to get up there, man. So nobody's there just like because of nepotism or anything like that. Everyone has to work really hard to get up to those levels, and it's mental because you were looking at like the ratings who've just done like really big venues, at least in comparison to anything that we've ever done before, and they're grafting their asses off, and you're going right, like how hard are we going to have to work if we want these stadiums, man? Like,
but that like one of the mad things for me is that like the ratings have got a big backdrop.
Well, edit that out, don't worry.
Exactly, I know. Get Joe to CGI that not happening. But basically, they've got a big backdrop, the ratings, and we've got like a Dictator flag. We've got a projector show. We are looking at probably getting a canvas soon. We'll need to think about. So we've got a canvas backdrop, and you go into their van. There's about 6.
Yeah.
And it's like, why have you got 6? Depends on the size of the venue. There's 6 different sizes, and I'm like, we've not even considered getting a canvas yet. They have 6.
Yeah.
Because by the time you're ready to go on a headline tour, stuff like that really matters. Their light show was incredible, but hearing the cost that's involved in that, you have to then try and drum up the cash to do it, and it is levels to it, man. And what's really good is that I think like footballers and stuff like that, when they come out the academy, then they go and train with the first team, and they see what the first team are like, and they're like, I've got a long way to go. That's what it's like, where it's like you go and you see, and no doubt the next time we go and see a high, like you see bands operating at a certain level, you're like, a long way to go here, boys, and that's cool. But as people, we are pushing for that. We want to try and get to that. And you say about earning your stripes, but by the time you get to where you want to be, if it all goes well, you're good enough to be there.
Yeah.
You're good enough to actually, you've learned so much and got so much better that even you said as performers, we jump about and we enjoy ourselves on stage now. That's the biggest thing, is that realising that the worst gig possible, as long as you still enjoy it, you've had a good night. And then people feed off of that. You're sitting there going like, that's the ticket, and you're like, that's class to know. But by the time you get to where you want to be, you've done that so many times. Imagine what us in a year's time is going to be like. Boy, why did we mind that time we sat in that podcast with microphones? And Finn kept jumping down and up, but aye.
It's one of those things, like, see, because we've now done it, I feel like we've started on that ladder, and we've started to earn our spots almost. Yeah. I've spoke to you before about like imposter syndrome and stuff, and feeling like maybe you didn't. Like we've been given so many cool opportunities.
I do not get that.
No, but you didn't get. But I know you. I kind of do, or I did. But see, now at this point, we've worked so hard and we've done so much and put so many hours in it. I'm like, I deserve to be here. We deserve to be up on this stage. We deserve to be opening for the Fratellis at the Barrowlands. You know what I mean? We've absolutely grafted our arses off.
Drop that one.
I know. Twice. It was 2 nights in a row.
Oh, glass face.
Actually, but just to, on that note, because I was out with my friend Joss the other night, and he attended that weekend where we got to do Barrowlands 2 nights in a row, and then SWG3 on the third night. We thought that was amazing, and it was amazing, a great experience. Joss told me that he was stood in the crowd, and I remember that crowd was a wee bit like, it wasn't quite the Barras. The 2 Barra nights, the crowd were amazing, but on the SWG3 night, the crowd weren't quite as receptive. Joss was telling me he stood in that crowd, and there was one of the punters stood next to him, and I think we'd went into like, so we play like our older songs first, and then we do Rubik's Cube and some of the newer ones towards the end of the set. The boy turned around to him and went, "Oh, they had me until they started playing that Happy Pitch," and he walked away, left, went to the bar.
Went to the bar, and you're like, aye, cool.
So we've earned our place. We deserve to be there, but
no, but you can't please everybody. That was the big thing with the Las Vegas shows, that you were sitting there going like. And I remember saying this, I'm like, boys, because our new stuff's really happy and stuff. And I think it's because I reached a point musically where I'm just like, I felt like I was kind of pretending to try and be cool with music, right? Pretending to try and be cool. And I was like, but I'm no cool. we're no cool, man.
You should see his nerd setup that he's got, man.
But I'm like, but it's fine. I'm like, I didn't need to be cool, man. I just want to enjoy it. So then I was like, what do I enjoy? And then suddenly, the EP we've done, every song on that, we're like, aye, right, this is about us in terms of like how we transform that to playing live. Suddenly, every single show, there's a song. Well, we'll no announce yet, but there's a song. Normally at the end of every show, doesn't matter if we had the worst day of our lives. You play that song live. By the end of it, even if there's one person in the crowd, we are buzzing. We're all just like.
I think like even if we've not had a great set and like we've not really won the crowd over, that set closer wins them all over, and they're all fans by the end of that song. It's brilliant.
No, it's amazing. Listen, I didn't want this to go on too long, right? Because this is our first ever one. But in terms of kind of wrapping it up, I'd like to have a more structured chat with the rest of them as well, just to kind of see what they're, because that's obviously like our experiences of it, and it is quite a stressful environment, but it's also amazing, and like things like merchandise and getting used to like speaking to people at the merch table after it and stuff like that was an amazing experience. Weirdly, the biggest thing for me is you get back and you're like, I'm done. Never want to speak to these boys again. I hate them. I actually hate them. I don't understand why I ever spoke to them in the first place. Within 2 days, I'm like, I can't wait to go again.
Yeah.
And that's the strangest thing. Obviously, the impact that has on your family, relationships and stuff like that has been difficult. I think our other halves have all been amazingly supportive throughout the past couple of months, which have been class. But we're also getting better at it. And I think one of the big things is deciding as a team, rather than just saying we're away. It's always like a kind of cross-reference where you're like, are you alright if we do this, this and this, and try to better plan it, is the way that I'm trying to look at it going forward. Like, where it's like, right, it works, but sometimes you commit to doing far too much and you're like, why have we had the way? But anyway, have you got any lasting tips that you'd give anybody?
Lasting tips, man.
If you could go back to yourself at the start of the tour, what would you say to yourself?
Oh man, just you prepare your food. Like plan out roughly what you're gonna eat. If you want to have a meal out in a city, do that. Like, but just make sure you're planning for it and you're budgeting for it. Eating well is probably the most important thing. And finding that space for yourself as well.
Fair play. I think if I was to give myself any tips, it would probably be, I think it's steaming. Get steaming number one. But luckily there wasn't too many days when I was steaming. I didn't have too bad hangovers. But what I would say is it's easier to like, easier for me to say I'll drive after the show, because then you end up having a class night's sleep. And as you say, you get to places you can't go out anyway, and then you're like fine. But you can't switch off after the show. It takes a wee bit of time because you're buzzing. Your adrenaline's like buzzing. So I would say the big tip for us at the very start is, do not book the hotel in the show in the city you're playing, because you're buzzing, and that often tends to be like you just want to go and like go out and just stay out till like 2 a.m. because you're like, it's fine, we're staying here tonight. Try and drive somewhere that's closer, so the next again day you can get to the new place and just chill out, because then you have time to go and do what you want. You can like, oh boys, we're no loading in for another 4 hours. You can go a wander, you can find a pure gym.
There's one tip that we've actually not even brought up yet.
Like, I'm going to tell the story of why it's a tip. Because if for anybody who doesn't know, we were playing the Barras with the Fratellis, and I think I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yes, we're on the same page.
And the drummer for the Fratellis, you were all talking to him. I come here, I'm like, well, he's cool drummer for the Fratellis, what are you talking about? We asked him, what would any tip you'd give for a travelling band on a tour? And he's like, frisbee, man, get a frisbee. We're all staring, we're like,
but not just any frisbee.
And he's like, no, yeah, an Arobi Super Disc. We were like, what? Now, we bought a frisbee. We didn't buy the actual Arobi Super Disc till later on, and Alan cannot throw the Arobi Super Disc. He threw it on the bowling club. We played a bowling club in Fort William.
Best gig ever.
Best gig ever. But in middling area in Fort William, because the wee woman made us soup before we played, and sausage rolls and sandwiches. But Alan threw it on the roof of the bowling club. Can I throw it for nothing? But anyway, we bought the frisbee. Turns out, as a group activity, at any level, even Alan can throw a frisbee. Even Alan can get a wee frisbee throw on the go. And there was a point where we went to Oxford, and the sun was beating down, and it was just the 5 of us stood in a big diamond, throwing the frisbee at each other. And what we done is we tried to get round the circle, we tried to get to 10. And mate, what a day that was. We spent about 40 minutes just throwing the frisbee.
What a way to decompress for a long travel and to bond as a team.
Do something energetic to just chill you out, and what a difference it made to that show as well.
Yeah, Mince Fratelli, thank you for the advice, my man.
Exactly. No, but anyway, listen, we're going to leave it there. If you would like to hear about other stuff, just pop it in the comments, because I'm assuming we're going to be loading this up to YouTube. But it would be good to hear what you would like to hear, and also even if you'd like us to do this more often, because it's something we said we'd like to do, but mate, I don't think it's the one thing the world doesn't need is 4 white males making a podcast. But it is also cool because I feel that like there's a lot that we're learning as a band, and there's so much I'd like to talk about, like our setup and how we do things wirelessly and stuff that maybe it doesn't appeal to everybody, but I would listen to if I knew I could. I'd love to hear more about touring and stuff like that, and I'll try and get a better structure and stuff when we do it again. But thanks for listening. This has been I don't know what to call the name of the podcast that you came up with. This has been Dicks with Mix, part 1, right? We'll see, episode 1, season 1. This is the pilot. This is the pilot. Hey. It's not season 1, episode 1. This is the pilot. But thanks for listening. Hopefully Joe animates a nice wee clip of Dictator elevator music, which he's been crafting in his own little cave, which is fair, over the top of this. But thanks.
Thank you.